Peace, peace, peace. It's your boy Carlos Parks, and you are now joining us on the Versatile Experience. This is a podcast where I like to give individuals a platform, opportunity to talk about their stories, tell the truth behind. I don't like to give an audience or give a platform to individuals who come on here lying, and what they're saying can't be verified, right? So we have the man today. Our guest is Mr. Grady Morris. He is the founder of Life After Life, which I love the title. I love that. That's what caught my attention when I saw him in the halls at the legislative building in Nashville, Tennessee, where he's from. Am I correct, Mr. Grady Morris? You're from Nashville, Tennessee, right?
Nashville, Tennessee, born and raised.
All right, so I want to give you a proper introduction. Mr. Grady Morris, after serving 28 and a half years in prison, transformed his life and emerged with a powerful mission to turn pain into purpose. Determined to break cycles and inspire change, he founded Life After Life, and a brand dedicated to redemption, growth, and second chances through motivational speaking, mentorship, and storytelling. Grady now uplifts others, proving that no past is too dark to light the way for others. I'd like to invite you to our show, man. I appreciate you. I hope whoever's tuned in appreciates the fact that this man survived. I'm not gonna say he survived 28 and a half years in a violent criminal justice system, especially in Tennessee. You were in the state of Tennessee, correct?
State of Tennessee, right?
Okay. So, before we're gonna lead up to that, man, tell me who Grady Morris is, right? How you were raised, where you were raised, who raised you, do you have siblings? Give us a little bit about your background story.
Okay, so first of all, I want to thank you for having me on, brother. I appreciate it a lot. When I first met you, I felt your energy, and I knew I wanted us to connect. So I appreciate the opportunity. Yep, from like you said, I'm from Nashville, Tennessee, born and raised. I was raised by my mother.
Okay.
My father left us when I was around 9 or 10 years of age. He had his own demons. He was fighting with alcoholism and everything. So, he really didn't know how to be a father. He wasn't raised to know how to be a father. My mother, with her 5'3" frame, she raised three of us, and it was a really nice experience, being able to have my mother as a lioness that she was, to be able to raise, two men and a young lady, but the fatherly presence was missing. We had our uncles, grandfather, people in the community, in the churches and stuff growing up, but I would like to have had him around, and I still wish he was around to this day so I could ask him some very, important, deep questions about, why he suffered and how he suffered. So I graduated from Hunters Lane High School in Nashville in 1993, and I had a fairly good childhood. I mean, I made a lot of bad decisions as a child. My mother did the best she could do with what she knew how to do, and I had opportunities to do better for myself. But right after high school, I chose to start indulging in ignorant stuff and doing things with people that I should never have been doing. But my childhood was pretty cool, man. It was a childhood of love. My mother loved us. She sacrificed a lot. That's why I knew, had the strength to make it through my incarceration by seeing how my mother survived, her situation in life.
Got you. Yeah. Yeah. So, growing up, you say it was you and a brother. Was he an older brother or a younger brother?
No, my brother and sister are younger than me.
Both of them are young. So you were big brother. You were big brother. So that adds to you had to what is it? Not just take care of yourself. You had to look out for your younger siblings as well, right?
Right.
So
right.
I'm guessing that added to your responsibility level. That made you more of a responsible individual, right? And when I speak to you, like I say, when we met, it was instantly, right? Chemistry was there, right? Energy was there. We're the same age. I graduated class of '92. So we're right there, right? And we grew up in we had a lot of the same struggles, although we were in different states, different cities, right? We both grew up in the crack era, right?
Right.
So, and I know crack, what it did to my community is it decimated it. What was the effects on crack and I think it hit around when I was around 11 or 12, right?
Right,
In
right.
Virginia, right? So
Mhm.
how did it affect you growing up, and how did you see the things around you transform?
It's funny you say that because we would watch movies like New Jack City, Boys in the Hood, Menace to Society. We tried to emulate what those guys were doing in their neighborhoods and in their communities, and most of them were doing it to survive. It
Yeah.
was something that was put in their face, and like, hey, if you want to make money and make fast money and take care of your family, this is what you can do. And
Okay.
and so with us, the first time I ever saw actually crack rock was when I was 18. First time
Yeah.
I saw it. And it
Yeah.
had been around for a long time. And guys were selling, they snort powder, they do their thing, but they go in a room and do it, hey man, let's go in here real quick. And the rest of us were drinking and smoking weed, they were back, sniffing cocaine and doing all these other things. And
And
so
smoking lace too.
yes,
Remember that?
yeah, we got different names for it, like Jimmy's and Primos and all of
Primos.
that,
Yeah.
all that good stuff.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So with me, when I first saw, I didn't even know what it was, bro. I thought it was like little chips of candle wax or something. I had no clue, or some, or those in the fish tanks. They have those little rocks, those little colored rocks.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
thought it
yeah.
was like some fish tank rocks or something. And my partner said, "Man, this right here is going to change the world."
Yeah.
And I said,
Oh,
"What do you know what I mean?"
yeah,
And I
he
said,
break.
"What do you?" He
Yeah.
was absolutely right. And I said, "What do you mean
Mhm.
by change the world?" He said, "Man, this is gonna bring a lot of trouble for us." He said, "But the money's good, bro." So with me, I had probably one or two people that I knew that were like actively selling crack rock.
Yeah.
But what I saw in my neighborhood, which was kind of a middle class, laid back neighborhood, is
Yeah.
we wanted to bring the culture of the guys from the West Coast and the Midwest into the South. And more people got addicted to the rock than they did making money. Because you make your money, somebody's got to be addicted to it. Somebody's got to
You
use it.
gotta have addicts. Yeah.
You got to have addicts. So I started seeing a lot more addicts. And even when I first got incarcerated, man, I didn't realize how many people in Nashville area alone were addicted to that. It was horrible.
Hmm. Yeah. So eventually, like we learned the moniker Cashville, right?
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
know I, I know that crack had a heavy impact in my community and in yours, right? And I like to talk about the adverse effects, because of course it decimated our community. A lot
Oh
of
yeah,
parents became addicted to drugs, and when they
yeah.
did so, they kind of like vacated their responsibilities to their kids, right?
Mhm.
Just that the drugs, the desire to have these drugs overcame their obligation to be parents, and a lot of
Mhm.
times they neglected these kids. So you grew up with, and I grew up with, a lot of neglected kids, right? I was fortunate, right? My mother wasn't addicted to crack, but a lot of my friends didn't fare so well, right? That their parents where I grew up, there weren't a lot of fathers, right? Like you said, your father wasn't there.
Right.
Um, yeah, I didn't have a lot of friends who had fathers. We all knew each other's mother, right? We
Mhm.
we knew each other's mother, but
Sure
we would
did.
hear about each other's fathers, right? All right.
Mhm.
No one had ever met my father. My father was in North Carolina. I was raised in Virginia, right?
Mhm.
And I didn't meet many of my friends' fathers growing up. Um, we didn't talk about fathers, like, so to have a father in my community was rare.
Right.
Like we looked at you as being lucky,
Mhm.
like, "Man, you got a dad, what I'm saying?" Like,
Right.
so how do you feel about that? I mean, you touched on the subject of your father,
Mhm.
but like, how did you fit? Did you ever see him? I mean, did
Well,
you run into him?
yeah, my father was in our life. Like I said, I'm the firstborn of three. My father was in our lives from the time I was born, because him and my mother got married in 1972, and I was born in 1975. I think
Okay.
my mother was telling me she didn't even think she could have kids because it took 3 years for her, well, 2.5 years for her to actually get pregnant.
Yeah.
And then my brother was born, then my sister was born in 1980. And I would say, what was it, 90, I said 90, 86. I was either, no, it was about 85 or 86. So that was like 10 or 11 when my father
Mhm.
ended up leaving. He was he was a former military, he served in the army. He came from a history of real serious mental health issues. I didn't
I was
realize,
about to say that. I was
yeah,
about to
yeah,
say,
yeah, he did. I didn't realize how messed up his upbringing was because his father was killed when he was a very young man.
mm,
His mother never told him she loved him. She never hugged him. She didn't believe in affection.
got you.
She was
Yeah,
hardcore, bro. So the love and affection that he actually received was from a couple, Miss Willie Mae and Pops Wharton. They
mm,
took my father in, got him through high school, got him into the military. They weren't able to fix the issues of his baggage because he carried it all his childhood, and there was never any intervention or healing or anything done to resolve those issues. So
yeah,
that carried over into he fell in love with my mother. He had kids, but my father didn't know how to be a father.
got you.
He was at his best when he was drinking. Most people get angry and act a fool when they drink. My daddy was the nicest person in the world when he was drinking. I used to love for my pops to drink because he would show us. Oh, I did, man.
Yeah,
I asked him like, "Hey, Daddy, you want me to go to the refrigerator and get you another beer?" I would actually go to the refrigerator, man, and try to, encourage him to take one more drink.
yeah, that's
But
crazy.
the but on the flip side of that coin, my pops, he was mean, he was hateful, he was verbally abusive.
Mm,
Whenever he punished me and my brother, he would punish us harsh. My mother would actually have to intervene and step in and stop him, what I'm saying,
mm,
from beating our ass sometime because he didn't know when to quit. And he would tell us all kind of wild stories. He would always share crazy things with us. He exposed us to alcohol. Like he gave me my first sip of alcohol when I was 4. 'Cause I
mm.
kept asking. Remember those big styrofoam cups they had back in the day?
Yeah,
Those little
yeah, yeah,
pickles. He would
yeah.
always pour his stuff and then just sit in the car and just ride and sip. And he was in the car with his older brother. And my brother and I were in the back seat. And it was funny because I said, "Daddy, what you got right there?" And he said, "Son, that's a grown man. Drink some." My uncle said, "Man, go on, let him take a little sip, man." So he gave
Yeah.
me a sip. I thought I had swallowed gasoline. It was terrible. Man, I thought I had swallowed gasoline, bro. I mean, I couldn't even catch. It took me like 20 seconds to like catch my breath. And I
Yeah,
remember going home telling my mama, I said, "Mom, I had a grown man drink today." And man, my mama flipped. She flipped.
yeah, that's
But
crazy.
yeah, Pops had his struggles, man. So he leaves and just walks out one day. He just walks out one day.
Mm,
And my 17th birthday party, 1992, I get a collect call from Georgia. And it was loud. We were having a party. We were bumping the music, man. I had DOC in, had it crunk. I remember this day like it was yesterday.
yeah,
When I answered the phone, it said, "You have a collect call, blah, 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 blah." I said, "Okay, I accept." It was my birthday. I'm like, okay, somebody must be out of town trying to call me, tell me happy birthday. So I'm listening to it. I didn't even recognize his voice, bro. It had been so long. And he was like, "Grady." And I said, "Yeah, this is Grady. What's up?" And he said, "No, no, no, Grady." And I said, "Man, this is Grady. What's up?" I said, "Look, man, whoever this is, you interfere with my birthday party, man. Just tell me what you want." He said, "No, son, it's your daddy." And
wow.
when he said that, I was like, "What?" So I took the phone off and I said, "Evan," I told my little brother, I said, "Evan, you ain't gonna believe this is daddy." My little sister beeline straight to the phone and grabbed the phone. "Daddy, daddy, daddy," And
Yeah,
everybody just kind of like everything. It's like the music and everything just stopped. And
yeah,
we're just looking
yeah,
around like, cause we honestly, bro, and I know this is bad to say, but I'm just going to admit it. We were hoping our daddy was dead because we didn't want to see
yeah.
him anymore. We didn't want to
Mm,
go through that stuff anymore. And that day was so significant because it was my birthday. He actually remembered not just mine, but all of our birthdays.
yeah.
And we met up with him, and it was just weird because my daddy was always like a kind of a built guy. He was kind
Hmm.
of small, and he still looked the same. He was just a little bit older. And man, it was crazy when I hugged him. Man, now I'm the same height as him. I'm giving him a hug, and
Yeah.
I kind of felt big. And it was at that point that I understood that it couldn't have been all hate, because for him to even call me on my birthday to reach out to me, there had to
Yeah.
be some love in him for not just me, but all of us,
Mm-hmm.
So, conversations came later, and of course, 2 years after that is when I got incarcerated. So, yeah, and then my father died, man. In 2018. I always wanted to ask him certain questions as a man that I didn't realize until I started living manhood.
Got you.
You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? I
Yeah.
mean, it's not easy being an adult all the time. It
Yeah.
really is
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
Everybody's always rushing to be grown and grow up, and man, I can't wait till I da 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 da. But then reality sits in. Adulthood ain't what everybody think. Now you can enjoy life as an adult. Don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
adulthood is not easy.
Yeah. You're right. You're
Yeah,
right. And especially when you don't have a father there to usher you into manhood, right?
yeah,
I lack that, so my father was around, but he wasn't there. He was in another state, and we would hear about my father a lot. But like I was like you, I kind of like forgot. I didn't know what he was doing until one day my mom was like, "Oh, yeah, I got a little sister about to be born." I'm saying? Like, yeah, yeah, your daddy got another baby on, and this was like years later, right? But
mhm,
anyway, man. So they got a saying, man, in order to be a man, you got to see a man, right?
mhm.
So if you don't have that father figure in your life, that's when the streets will put someone else in front of you,
You better
right?
know it.
And yeah, and you just mentioned, um, you went to prison not long after your 17th birthday.
Mhm.
How did the streets affect your upbringing? Who was it that you modeled yourself? Was there a older person who you kind of like this style and you like emulated? What led you into what got you incarcerated?
Well, like I said, watching those movies, and I'm not blaming the movies at all, because
Yeah,
when you look at those movies through the lens of a young kid, and you look at them through the lens of an adult, the message is clear. You live this life, this is what's going to happen to you. But
yeah,
all we see is the rims, the money, the women, the glorifying the jack moves and all that stuff. So we had a guy that moved into our neighborhood in Haynes Manor,
uh-huh.
and
What
him and his.
part of Nashville is Haynes Manor in?
Okay, so Haynes Manor is like the northeast Nashville area. It's right off of Trinity Lane. It's between Trinity Lane and Bordeaux.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
between
know what
Trinity Lane and
border
Bordeaux.
was that. I saw that big mural, that border mural over there.
Yeah. And because
Mhm.
Haynes Manor, once you drive into the neighborhood, it has this, established in 1965. So actually, it's been around for 60 years. But a guy moved into the neighborhood. He had a brother, some sisters, and he was right across the street from who I thought was my best friend at the time. And man, he kept water money this thick. He
Yeah,
fat chains, any kind of sports team hat. I mean, shoes. I mean, he just and his brother always kept a cool car.
yeah.
And why I'm like, man, what do y'all be doing, man? He said, man, bro, he said, we in the streets doing our thing, man. He says money be made. You ever want to do it? So I thought about it because at that same time, I was finishing up high school. My grandfather was a retired fire chief. My uncle, he was at the time a fire marshal. They
Okay.
wanted me to, kind of fall in line to do something with myself because I didn't have a clear cut, pathway of what I want to do after high school. I kind of was lazy. I
Yeah,
was lazy, procrastinator. I didn't want to do anything. I only made the grades I needed to make. I could have did better. I just chose not to. School
yeah,
bored me. It bored me.
yeah.
And so anyway, the guy came, one night we was out there drinking. He said, man, look, man, I'm telling you, man, the jack move is the way to go. Easy
Mm,
money, go in, get out. Bam. He said, just think, people make this much money in a month, man. You can go in there one time and get all that one time. And like, damn, for real. So we had ended up getting this, me and this other guy that I said, I thought was my friend at the time. We ended
yeah.
up finding this old pistol, bro. The hammer didn't work. It didn't have no. I'm talking about, man. If you would have picked it up and dropped it like this, it would
With
have
a
crumbled. It
Yeah,
had no. It couldn't fire anything. So we taped it up with duct tape. I spray painted it chrome to make it look good, and we went into like this convenience store. it was this old dude in there, man. We knew he wasn't gonna buck the system. So when that man took the little money, and it was the adrenaline rush that I felt at that time. Like I felt alive. You know
Wow.
what I mean? I felt alive, bro. And my whole child, I'm funny, life of the party. I had my insecurities. I had my doubts about myself. I didn't know who I was or what I wanted to be or who I wanted to be. But in that moment, when I did that, I felt power. I felt untouchable. And after that, we took that money and got a real gun from the streets and took off from there. So
Hey,
it was influenced by that guy, man. Like seeing all that
yeah,
money and them cars. Yeah, I'm thinking to myself, white America ain't gonna let me get what I want. I'm finna take it. That
yeah,
was
yeah,
ignorance at the
yeah,
time,
yeah,
and
exactly.
yeah, that was my ignorance at the time. So that's what the influence was.
But I mean, that's being transparent, man. We were ignorant, right? So
Mhm.
ironically, I have a similar story, man. I don't know how I got this gun. I was selling a little bit of drugs, I was dibbling and dabbling, selling, get a quarter ounce, a half ounce. I was small, I was in school still, but I got this gun and it was called a Mark 5 or a Mark something, man. It was a big gun. It had one
Yeah.
shot in. It took a shotgun shell, right? Took one
Oh
shotgun shell.
yeah.
So you open it, you put the shotgun shell in, and you close it like this, right? So it was
Right.
a
Right.
big gun, right? And I think it was a 12 gauge, right, or 20 gauge. I don't remember what kind of shell it was, right?
Yeah.
But like you say, the music, man. For some reason, I don't know what was big with robbing, and even though I had money, I wanted to rob something,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember this crackhead came up and she was with, she was a trick. She was a prostitute. She had a trick with her, and he was drunk white dude. And after they cop what they was gonna cop, she pulled me to the side and let me know he got a lot of money. He got a lot of money, Carlos. We down here in this hotel room down here, such and such. I said, all right, I'm gonna come down there. You know what I'm saying? Like you just, play it off because he pissy drunk enough to hear pee on himself, that type of drunk, right?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
went down there, me and one of my partners, man, and this was my first robbery, and I knocked on the door. She opened it like planned. You know what I'm saying? I kicked in and laid him down, like lay down, like. He was, he had a big wad of money in there, man. I don't even remember how much it was, but he was a truck driver, I
Mhm.
snapped him one time with the gun just because, like you say, that power thing kicked in, right? And I'll never forget it, man. Like we leaving with all the money and she run outside. Carlos, what about me? I'm like, girl, I got you. Me yelling my name like you know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like I got you later, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, me
Right.
and my friend, we split up and I gave him about $500. I kept the rest. He just went with me. He didn't even have a gun. You know what I'm saying? He was just with me, But
Yeah.
yeah, and that was my first robbery, man. Like you say, man, it was the music, man. I don't even remember what I was listening to at the time. This had to be 1990, maybe 91. I was still in school and I was class of 92, so I think it was around 90, 91, right? So
Right.
I don't
Right.
know who was hitting at the time.
Mhm.
Maybe was NWA out then. I don't remember, but
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. That's when they had the Niggas for Life album.
if that was it, that's what got me.
Yeah,
That's what got me, man. That's what got me,
yeah.
man. It was just, I don't know. I had to try it, but like you
Mhm.
say, we were ignorant. Those were thoughts of young men who hadn't fully developed, right, mentally, right.
Mhm.
And like it cost me a considerable amount of my life, right. So let's
Right.
talk about that for you, right.
Okay.
I'm guessing that robbery led to others, right? Or am I correct in assuming that, or was
Oh
that?
yeah, yeah.
Oh, and
No,
then
that
okay,
it was probably I graduated in June of 93.
uh-huh.
So I would say around November, October, November of 93, later that
Yeah.
year is when we actually got started.
Okay.
And I mean, it went from all the way to May. of '94.
Oh, y'all were getting it in.
Man, I'm talking about, yeah, yeah.
Laying
We had,
down everything.
yeah, we were. I mean, you know, it was crazy because we'll do a little something, then go into a hiatus and just, you know, work a job here and there, and you know, try to make it look good. And
Yeah.
you know, then like, hey man, you know, let's go down to ATL and kick it, and you know, man, we need about 5,000. All right, let's go get it, and we go get it. You know, 'cause I'm like, well, I can't get 5,000 from my job by the end of the week, so y'all know what
Yeah.
we got to do. Let's go do it, and we do it. I remember, man, we did a numbers house,
Yeah.
and you know, they running numbers, man, and you know, and this is my, you know, thinking at the time, my deranged mindset
Yeah.
was, y'all ain't even dealing in the lottery. You going underground, making this money. Let me get that,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Hmm.
So we had planned it out, and at that time, that's the most money I had seen in one like area. It was probably close to $100,000, man.
Yeah.
And they just had to sit in there. So we had to go in there. We had to go get it. Now, mind you, these are dudes who are dealing in illegal stuff, and we had no clue. Like, dude, they got guns in here. We didn't think about that. And so the first time, you know, pulled up on dude so cold, he couldn't do nothing. He was shocked, like, hey, they really doing this? You know, we
Yeah.
got it, you know, got gone, and we were gone. We divided out, and then we just started blowing money, bro.
Yeah.
Chains, rings. Uh my probably has I had so many. It's ridiculous how much stuff I had. It was crazy.
Yeah.
So, you know, time went on, man, let's go get them again. So you're not thinking you did this the first time, they're gonna be ready this time.
Yeah.
You don't
Exactly.
think about that.
Yeah.
And this next time, bro, they was ready, man. They was ready, man.
Mm.
I mean, really and truly, when we went and did it the second time, we actually went to the store. We was gonna take the dude out the store. We knew they were running it together.
Yeah.
We're gonna get
Mhm.
him. We want everything in the store. We want everything in the trailer. We finna get all of this. And this time, man, dude wasn't going. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? So I actually had, and this is sad, I actually had to grab his wife and
Mm.
make her a human shield to get myself out. And then
Yeah.
once I got to the door, I let her go and I pushed her back in.
Yeah.
Well, man, she fell to the ground like some James Bond stuff, man, and pulled something out and just started popping.
Why?
If I wouldn't have tripped on the what do you call those things where, you know, you driving up like to a market, they got the little concrete
What you talking about? Yeah,
rectangular bar,
those little, yeah, bumper things. Those little,
the bumper
yeah,
stop, yeah, the stopper thing.
yeah,
I tripped over that trying to run other way. Had I not tripped, bro, she probably would have blown my head off, man, because she went straight for the dome. She just pop, 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 just started shooting. So
man.
my partner comes around the corner. It was, man, I'm talking, it was like a scene from a movie, but it happened so fast, and I'm like, wow. He started popping back in the store. So we get up, we run and just strike out. And
Yeah.
we waiting, like, man, where's so and so at? Man, I don't know. And all of a sudden, bro, he walking this dude up the alley, and he wanted to do him. And I'm like, nah, bro, don't do that, man. Don't kill the dude, man. Nah, man, they
Yeah.
shot at us, man. And I'm like, bro, but we wrong. We wrong, man. We got
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
Let's just, you know. And he let him go. And at that moment is when I started realizing, man, this stuff is getting to be too much for me. You
Yeah.
know, it's
Got you.
beginning to
Yeah.
be too much. I never went into it to hurt anybody or take no lives. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
I wanted the rush and I wanted the money. And at that moment is when I really started taking inventory of my life. You know, I'm thinking to myself, I could have easily died tonight in a senseless act. And you know, the news would have blazed me as being this horrible teenage young black dude, angry, trying to take his anger out on the world, and you
Yeah.
know, this, that, and the other. And somebody finally sent him to his demise. I didn't want to be a headline. So I had
Hmm.
quit for a while. So then, you know, one of my partners was like, hey man, I got this place. This guy cashes checks, and whatever day of the week he cashed them. And he said, man, he's an older dude. We can go in there, man, probably get about, you know, about 3 to 5,000. And I was like, well, man, I got about two. I can give you two now. We can just do something else later. I just didn't have a good feeling about it and when he was
Yeah.
talking about it.
Yeah.
But I said, all right, man, let me peep it out and I'll see. Because I always wanted to check it out for myself to see, what was around. And, in the 90s, there wasn't a lot of cameras in the 90s and everything. So I wanted to just kind of stake everything and see what was going on. So I'm like, all right, bro, we'll do it. And so that morning, I had told my little brother we was gonna go shoot basketball. Well, my partner called and said, hey man, we need to go on and take care of this now while it's early, get out the way. All right, cool. So I had told my brother, I said, look, man, we'll go hoop later on. Let me go take care of something. And my little
Yeah.
brother, man, he looked me in the eyes and he said, bro, I feel like if you leave and go, something bad gonna happen, man. He said, man, let's just go hoop. I said, nah, man, I'll be straight. I'll go. So, man, Carlos, bro, that morning,
Yeah.
I had a 1984 door Malibu. I love that car. That was my ride right there.
Yeah.
My car had never stalled or stopped on me the whole time I had it. The whole time. And that morning, man, that car stopped on me 3 times on my way to go there.
Wow.
Go there about 3 times, bro. It stopped.
That was your
Um,
intervention,
that was it,
right?
bro. That
Yeah.
was it, bro.
Mm.
And so the guy that was, he was like, hey man, man, that man's gonna do it, man. We got this. So I started this last time, it was full ride. And I said, oh, okay, cool, let's go. And then of course, the unthinkable ended up happening.
So let's talk about that because I don't know what the unthinkable is. I know you did time. I don't know exactly why, right? And I assume it was probably for armed robbery, right? Because you did tell me enough about that in that short
Yeah.
stint. So what
Mhm.
happened was you guys went to go do this and somebody lost their life or something?
Yeah. So
Okay, yeah.
the man that owned the market, he was an older guy.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in a neighborhood in West Nashville somewhere.
Not
And
even in
so
our area.
not even
Yeah.
our area. And
Yeah.
it was a predominantly white area,
Yeah, I'm
and
familiar with West Nashville is beautiful. I love it. That was me and my wife's favorite part of the city, West
yeah,
Nashville.
yeah, West Nashville straight. And
Mm-hmm.
and it stayed with the times too. It's grown and modernized with the times.
Guys,
But
yeah,
so I went inside the market, and man, it was the weirdest thing, bro, because it's like this man knew something was gonna happen. It's almost like he read the energy when I came in. So I walked around act like I was gonna buy something, and you know, he just kind of looked at me. I looked at him. So I'm thinking, man, go on, just pull the gun out and just get the money. This dude, he old dude, he ain't finna do nothing. So I pulled
yeah,
my gun out, and asked for the money. That man didn't budge, bro. He didn't flinch, jump, show any fear or nothing. It scared
mm,
me because I'm like, every time I pulled that gun out on somebody, I got a reaction,
yeah, yeah,
and his dude didn't react. He didn't do anything. And so he stalled me out for about 15 seconds, maybe. Then that's when I was like, all right, man, I see you ain't going, I'm finna go. So I backed up, walking away. And I still had my gun up watching him. I mean, he just stared at me. It was weird. He just looked at me.
yeah,
And I'm thinking to myself, like, man, dude got every right to protect his stuff as his, you
yeah,
know. But I was not gonna do anything stupid. I said, man, I'm just gonna go on and roll. And in the stores, you know how I don't know if they still have them now because I don't really pay that much to them, but they have like those potato chips on the racks on the ends of the things
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah, yeah. End
ends of the
cap.
aisles.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I'm backing up. I bump into one and it startled me. So I turned around, I grabbed it, and
Yeah,
man, something said turn around. When I turned around, man, he had reached under the counter
and
and
pull the gun out.
he was pulling the gun up, and I panicked and I just shot twice. I
Guys,
wasn't aiming for him. I wasn't trying to miss. I wasn't trying to hit. I just shot to scare him because I figured if I pulled the trigger, it was impulsive.
yeah,
It
yeah,
was impulsing out of fear. And man, when I shot, man, I saw his body jerk and he just like went straight to the ground. And I was like, oh shit.
yeah,
I ran behind the counter and, you know, I looked and, I put my hand up under and see if he was breathing. He wasn't breathing. And I'm like, do I do CPR? Do I call the ambulance? What do I do? But see,
Yeah.
that was the beautiful part of my spirit is I still had enough of me to try to help, but then the other side was like, you just
You gotta
try
get
to
out of
rob
here.
this dude, you gotta go.
Yeah.
Now, what added insult to injury was not only did I shoot him and I killed him and took his life, I took the money after I killed him.
Got you.
So that made my charge felony murder. And in the state of Tennessee at that time, felony murder was automatic life sentence. Like there was no 50 years at 30% or 45 years at 45%. That was automatic life. You was gonna serve a life sentence with
With
felony
felony
murder.
murder. Yeah.
As it is today. It's just you do
Yeah.
more time today.
Some we're fighting right now too. Yeah.
It's something that we're fighting right now. So that happened. I got in the car, I peeled out, my hands were shaking. I had these involuntary like twitches, and man, I was in disbelief, bro. Like I just shot somebody and killed them.
Got you. Yeah.
And I got home, and bro, it was all over the news before I even made it home, bro. Midday news. I was like, golly. And
Were there
so
cameras?
what? No, there were no cameras.
No camera.
No cameras.
So how did they track? How did they come back to you?
Okay, so with the group of guys that I was involved with at the time, all those robberies and everything we was doing, they were building a case against us. Like they were just waiting for the right time to come get us. And
Yeah.
so we were at I actually had to go to court that morning.
For something unrelated, for something else.
Something I had dumbass me was in a park with my girlfriend at the time shooting a freaking gun at a trash can. You know what I'm saying? In a park now. In a park. And I got pulled over by the park ranger and everything. But that case got dismissed because of how they tried to dog pile on me and stuff whenever they, held me up.
Yeah.
And so they got dismissed that morning. So they followed me from the courtroom to my partner's house because I was actually going to take my girlfriend shopping that day, and we were actually going to go see a movie later that night that it just got released. So anyway, they followed me to his house, and it was a double whammy, bro. They surrounded it, came in there, man. I'm telling you, like from a scene from a movie, you would think. And at that time, the murder wasn't even an issue; it was just the robberies.
Wow.
It was just the robberies, and I think also what did it was okay. So this pawn shop robbery we had did on Dickinson Road. A close friend of mine, I considered family, we called each other cousins. Him and his partners, he got killed doing that same pawn shop like a month later.
Okay.
And I told him from my experience with that guy at that other place, like, bro, listen, we already hit them. That woman had a 357 behind the counter and another one on the other side. I said, I'm telling you, when you go in there, bro,
they're gonna be ready.
It's a window right there. Don't let them see you cross that window, or I'm telling you, man, when you walk in there, they're gonna start popping. And I said, let me go with you to make sure this is. And he was like, no, we got it, bro, we got it. And then later on that night, I'll come home and everybody sitting on the porch crying, talking about, man, Joe done got shot and killed, and his partner got shot trying to pull him out of the store. And then the other dude left him. He just got in the car and just left him. You know what I mean? But anyway, they came and got us, and when they came and got us, they were talking about these guns we had got from that pawn shop robbery. They want to know where the guns were, where the guns, where the money. Now I hid them, and something had told me to move them because I wanted to be the only one who knew where they were.
Got you.
And then sure enough, man,
guys,
and sure enough, because one of the guys had thought that the other dude that I was closer to when he ended up singing like a canary when it come down to it. And he did. I mean, he just started saying stuff he shouldn't have said and offering information he shouldn't have offered. So they take us downtown and they sit me in front of this TV screen with little VHS tapes and all that old stuff. Some people don't even remember them things, but they had you know what I mean? They had the VHS tapes and they were showing me all of these robberies. And I mean, some of them I even laughed at, bro. It was crazy. And they were like, why we showing you this? It's because we finna pin anything that look like you in these tapes, we gonna pin them on you, and they want information. I wouldn't give it to them. So anyway, later on, they had me in a little cold room. It probably about 40 degrees in a little room, and they trying to freeze me out and get me to break down.
Yeah.
And then they came to me saying, "Hey, you got your Malibu painted not too long ago at Mako." And I'm like, "Yeah." And they said, "Why did you get it painted?" Because we heard that you were involved in something that you wanted to cover up, not only just what you did, but the paint job too. And I'm like, "Huh?" Then they showed me a picture of the gun that I used in that crime. And they said, "We know more than you think we know. And we got somebody that's gonna help us out." And I'm like, that was the exact gun. It was the paint job I got painted. I painted my Malibu, and I was like, huh. So 19-year-old me is thinking like, so now they came to me and said, "Man, look, we get you for the death penalty for this. The death penalty." And I was like, "The death penalty?" I said, "Y'all gonna kill me?" He said, "Well, he said, we just want to know what's going on." So man, time went on, and I was thinking to myself, like all the stuff that I had done from the beginning to then, all the things that, and even not just criminal things, just some of the crazy, malicious shit that I did to other people, being in the mindset that I was in. I said, this is my get back. This is my payback. I said, somebody's karma's is coming back on me now. Yeah. So the more they talked, the more I thought they had evidence on me. And it's gonna sound stupid, but with my conscience and everything, man, I went ahead and told him, I said, "Look, man, I did it, man. I did it, Like, I did what?" I said, "Man, I took that dude's life, man. I didn't mean to, man. I promise I didn't." I'm crying and telling them, like, "Man, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do it." I mean, I was bawling, bro.
Yeah.
The detectives was sitting there looking at me like I was crazy.
Because they didn't know what you was talking about.
What I was talking about. The detective, I don't know, his name was Larry Flair. I ain't gonna never forget it. He told my mama, he said if he would have never opened his mouth and said something about that, he said we never would have known that was him. Yeah. We was connecting him to robberies. Like I probably got 8 to 10 years at 30% tops, bro. I'd have been a year and a half, 3 years, flattened in 5. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I've still been in my mid-20s with a long life to live outside free. And man, I gave it up on myself, bro. Mm-hmm. And then another thing too, I thought is everything else that I did, if I took responsibility for what I've done, everybody else involved would be cool. Like they wouldn't even bother nobody else. Yeah. No, that's a fallacy. You know what I'm saying?
They want everybody.
They want everybody. They want everybody. They want everything that was taken. They want it all. What helped me in my case, and that was during the time of O.J. Simpson being accused of doing what he did. Any black dude from 94 to 96 that did anything, especially toward a Caucasian, your ass got it unless you had bukus of money, and I didn't have it. Yeah. So everybody at the jailhouse, they get 50 years here, life at 95 there, and 115 years, 63 at this percent. I'm like, damn. This guy's in the jailhouse for 3 years fighting that case. You know? Yeah. So I ended up, what was it, like 19 months later in November 1995, I ended up signing off for life and 16 years in prison.
Wow.
Yep.
Life plus 16 years.
Life plus 16 years.
So you did that to avoid the death penalty.
In my mind, I was thinking, because my lawyer kept telling me, you'll be my age or your mama's age when you get out. It's better that than be dead.
Yeah.
You'll sit on death row for 30 years and you're going to do the time anyway, waiting, because I confessed there was no coming back from a conviction.
Yeah.
There was no coming back from that,
Yeah.
So I went ahead and took the time, man. And, my lawyer, he wasn't really I feel it. I understand it now because I took his ability away from, you know, giving
Being
him the
able to
best
defend
chance. Yeah,
you. Yeah.
exactly. So I giving the
Mhm.
best chance to defend me, I took that away from him. And of
Yeah.
course, he was angry about it. He's like, dude, you just gave them the case. You just gave it to him.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yep.
know, and I was like, golly. So yeah, I got sentenced. I signed out my time like the first week of November in 1995 to life plus 16 years.
Mm. Wow. So now let's go to Tennessee Department of Corrections,
Okay.
right? Horrible place, man. As you know, I'm kind of like tapped into Tennessee politics and their prison system through
Right.
relationships with individuals who are fighting for their lives right now.
Hmm.
And you went through that, that that monster. Did you ever find yourself housed at any of those private prisons in Tennessee, like Trousdale, Turner, or any of the other ones?
Yeah, I South Central. I did
Okay.
2 years at South Central. That was the only uh Court Civic CCA uh
Yeah.
place that I did time. It's a total different monster
Than the state, than the
than the
actual
state.
state.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Is better or worse?
For me, it was worse.
Okay.
For me, it was worse. The state was a lot more lenient on allowing you to do your time in a more peaceful manner in
Okay.
some sorts. Because
Right.
none of it's all crazy madness.
Yeah.
But South Central was more oppressive.
Got you.
They wanted to remind you that, hey, you are an inmate. You ain't nothing to us.
Yeah.
Without your number, you don't exist to me. We're gonna keep our foot on your neck. And it was a constant reminder. Constant.
So you did 28 and a half years. Like, I mean, that's a remarkable amount of time. You ain't do it, you survived it. I'm gonna say survived it because
Yeah,
you and I both know prison is violent, right? A
it
lot of people
is.
don't make it home from there.
Yeah.
We've seen people stabbed, locked inside. Most of them gonna die from stabbings or being um not having access to adequate health care, right? People
Mhm.
get sick and die in there. I've seen dudes kill themselves,
Yeah.
you have to get cut down. But
Mhm.
28 and a half years, right, in Tennessee, what was there a silver line? Like, because you obviously have grown, right? You are
Mhm.
not the same dude who went in,
Right.
right? How
Right.
I know what there was transformative moments in my prison sentence, right? That just changed how I saw things. What changed your mindset? How did Grady reinvent himself and come out the person he is today?
There were multiple transformational periods. Like I said, I was 19 when I went in. I first stepped foot inside of a prison at 20.
Mm,
And the first time I got into an altercation, I was on the basketball court. And for some reason, man, Nashville and Memphis just had this beef that had been going on for a long time. I could not understand it. Like, if you leave Tennessee and you go to New York, y'all all some country Negroes at the end of
yeah,
the day. They don't
yeah,
care if you from this part or that part. Whose city got more people? Whose city more bigger? I never understood that. Never understood because some of the coolest dudes I met were from Memphis.
yeah, yeah,
Anyway, I was on the basketball court. Me and this guy getting into it. I didn't know he was affiliated. He was actually affiliated in the game. But I was always told, like, man, you got to stand on your feet. You got to stand your ground in here because if you don't, and people see weakness, they're gonna take advantage of you. And that was
yeah,
true in the sense of when I came through. And we got scuffling, and he hollering Trashville, nigga, and da and this, that, and the other. And he was trying the entire time, man, on, one more time you find me, bro. And I was done talking about it. So in my mind, I'm like, if you do it again, I was gonna go ahead and do what I gotta do, and I did.
yeah.
So when that happened, everybody kind of like intervened and pull us apart. I see like 7 dudes get up and come my way, and I was like, cause back then we could wear colors in prison. You know, could wear like team hats and all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And man, I saw that blue, and I already knew what it was. I said,
It was
"Oh
Crips.
man, I already knew what it was." So man, I'm talking my heart beating fast. So then his Muslim brother, he took interest in me from the beginning, man. And you know, I misread it at first because I'm thinking, man, this dude trying to turn me into his boy. That ain't finna happen. I
Yeah,
will
yeah,
hurt this dude.
yeah.
But this dude genuinely liked me. He said, man, you know, you're smart. He said, you're intelligent. He said, but bro, you got a lot of growing to do. And he said, what's going to end up happening is you're going to end up killing somebody else and never getting out, or somebody going to kill you.
Yeah.
You know. So he jumped up, and some of his brothers came, and they were like, hey man, look, you know, youngster stood his ground. He asked the dude, don't do it no more. He did it again. He was wrong. And they agreed. They were like, yeah, you're right. We watched the whole thing. So in prison, they would say, all right, well, look, man, y'all squash it. Let's go in the room. Y'all get them up.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
you
Yeah,
know,
finish up. Yeah.
and that's that on that. We'd be done with it, regardless of what happened. So, you know, the Crip brother, he patted me down. The Muslim brother patted the other guy down, make sure we weren't carrying knives. We went in there, we did our thing. That was that on that. And the thing about it was, me and that dude ended up being cool.
That's
We ended up
crazy.
being cool, man. It was like, it was crazy because I stayed there for right at 2 years. But when I went to the Muslim brother's room at night, he told me, he said, man, that whole thing could have been avoided if you would have just said, hey, man, I'm done. Y'all got that. And
Yeah,
walked
yeah,
off. He said,
yeah.
you wanted to prove something. And he said, you did. And he said, and here you might have to sometime. He said, but you got to start learning. You can't fight every fight. You can't battle every battle with violence, man. Sometimes it's cool to just walk off. But hey, man, I'm done. He said, people do it all the time. He said, hell, I do it. He said, I do it because I know what's going to happen to the other person. I do it for their sake and not mine.
Yeah.
And he said, man, sometimes, man, you got to be bigger than that small stuff, bro. So that was a lesson. So I started putting myself in a position to do that. Then years go by, I started watching people and noticing how they would react to certain things. And I remember I asked this guy, he was actually the gym rec specialist, pretty cool dude, you know, used to always play ball with us. And I asked him, I said, man, do I act like that? And he looked at me, he said, Grady, you worse. And I'm like, for real? He said, bro, you worse. And that was a moment. And it was different things at different times that I started learning about manhood, because I really didn't know manhood. I didn't really know what it all intended to be a man. Didn't know that.
Yeah.
And you know, and so those, you know, those are just two examples. But it was when I was in my 30s, I met a guy by the name of Clint Boyd Jr. and we were at River Bend in Nashville. You know, we were support workers. We called it staff. We were support workers. So we was at a more relaxed place, more minimum security, more relaxed place at the time. And Clint would bring his Omega Sci-Fi brothers in every quarter for an empowerment session. So the Omega brothers would sit, you know, in the gym in a long line of chairs, and we would be in the, you know, in the bleachers, and we would just dialogue, man, have conversations. You know, that's why I first learned how to, you know, connect, network, build relationships. And I got to thinking to myself, yeah, I'm like, man, I got to prepare myself to start going home, because I want to be sitting on this side of the empowerment session one day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And Clint started really, you know, making me want to sharpen my mind with reading. You know, man, set yourself a schedule, man. Start exercising. You know, start watching, you know, what you know, watch and what you hear. You know, remove yourself from people. He said, man, you know, growing can be a lonely space for anybody, but that lets you know that you're moving in the right direction. So that was the biggest influence I had as far as like my growth. And from that point on, I consciously watched everything I did, said. He said, because Grady, as soon as you open your mouth, you tell the world who you are. So who do you want them to know you as? You want them to know you as this ignorant young 19-year-old kid who came out, or you want them to know you as the man that you're trying to be now? And he said, man, you know, he said, now manhood is constant, bro. It's constant growth. You are never gonna stop growing. You're never gonna be the man you should be. He said, but you can always aspire to the man that you want to be. And he said, it just keeps you growing. He said, don't ever put a ceiling on anything. Never cap your ceiling on how, you know, how great you can be. So that was my biggest influence.
Okay.
Was my dad, Clint. Yeah.
I think we all have them, like, because when I went in, I was young. I was 24, right? And super aggressive, right? Um, Big young dude coming in. I got fresh 30 years. I hated everybody. Right? I was mad at the world. I was
Yeah.
bitter, and I was in the federal system, which is far different than any of the state systems, right? The feds is different. First of all, you're going to get housed in other states, right? Where you guys are dealing with local beef, Nashville and Memphis, right? That's what we deal with in our state systems in Virginia. But in the feds, it's bigger. You're dealing with racial politics, it's Mexican, black, and white, right?
Right.
And you already know which side you on. It's no, they don't care if you're a GD, a vice lord, a crip, anything, right? If a black and a Mexican get into it, they coming for a black. They don't care what flag you flying. So therefore, we all, we were kind of all together. It was all the local politics was out the door in the federal system.
Right.
It was life or death. All they did was sharpen knives all day. We were playing basketball, flag football, and soccer or whatever we were playing, handball, and what were the Mexicans doing? Sharpening knives.
Goodness. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all they did, sharpen knives. So we already know they gonna have them bangers, right? And most of the time it didn't matter because we're super physically strong and athletic, and somehow you can have a knife and I'm gonna still beat you up, right? So but we had those situations where we had to get patted down and go have a one-on-one with someone that we just couldn't get along with.
Right.
But I had someone like you in my ear, old head, man, listen, youngin, you know what I'm saying? Like, and they were all because they know your situation. They knew you were coming in with a fresh life sentence. You feel what I'm saying? And they knew when one thing about a life sentence is really what do you have to lose?
Exactly.
What do you have to lose? So even
Right.
though I had a 30-year sentence, I was looking at 30 years to life when I got sentenced. I got the low end, which was the 30. But everybody in my dorm, everybody I dealt with had a life sentence. So, I just was like, you know what? Man, I might as well have a life sentence too. 30 years. You know how old I'll be when I get out? I get out when I'm 40 something. And I thought that was really a lot of time. No,
Yeah.
I was supposed to get out at the age of 52. Right.
Oh, okay.
My release date was 2026, which is next year. And I'll be 52 when my release date comes. And I'm 51 right now. So I've been home 10 years now because I won my appeal, right? Something happened for you, right? That allowed the doors to open for you. What was that, and how did you feel when the doors, when they parted the Red Sea and, what happened? How was that?
Okay. So in 2022, so first go back a little bit. The Muslim guy that kind of took me under his wing,
Uh-huh.
I didn't realize that. So we get these Thomas sheets, and what they are, they're your time sheets. They show you your time, whether you expiring, going up for parole, release eligibility date, all of that stuff, full expiration. So you would get these every quarter, January, April, July, October, you would get one. I would never look at mine because when I first got my first one, it said something 2035. And I'm thinking 2035.
Yeah.
I just throw it in the trash can. So he came up to me and they said, "Fool, what are you doing?" I said, "Man, what am I keeping that for?" He said, "Man, he said, take it out of the trash can and look at it." So I looked at it. And I said, "What am I looking at?" He said, "Look at that date right there." Because mine had the date I came in, June of 1994, and then the date of my release eligibility. He said, "You notice something different." So that 2035 had turned to a 2034. So I was like, he said, "Man, you get 16 days a month behavior credit, program credits. As long as you stay out of trouble, bro, you're going to get 16 days a month." And he said, "And for every 3 months, you get this." And he's just breaking all this stuff down. Well, I was
Yeah.
like, wow. So I took it out. Man, I took the rest of them out and started, because my thing was like 3 pages long with charges.
Yeah.
So over the years, I started keeping up with it, and I started noticing, and I became a master at calculating my time. It took a while, but I
Yeah.
started looking like, okay, I started when I was a clerk, I had a lot of clerk jobs. So I would look at the calendars and say 2029, and I would just count 16 days back,
Yeah.
do that. And then I would get this number, get that number. I got good at it. Now, as long as you stay out of trouble, don't get disciplinaries, then your security level would stay minimal. Well, I went medium a couple of times. So you go medium, you don't get 16, you get 12. So I had to, do the math on that. So anyway, July comes, January, and they gave me a thing saying that you have an eligibility of parole this year, like a notice. And I'm like, okay, I knew that was coming. I just didn't know exactly when. So I'm thinking I go up around May, June, July, or something to that nature. So I had already been preparing like all those years. I already had me a parole portfolio put together, and I'm getting all these letters. So then they sent me this thing around March and saying you have a parole date of July the 11th.
Yeah.
And my heart started I'm talking about beating. I'm like, man, it finally came. It finally came. I called everybody. I'm telling them the email to send their support letters to. Man, I was just ready, man. And I know that, when you go up for parole, people would come back and say, man, they're not giving parole to nobody. But I'm seeing lifers, my friends, 6 of my friends right now paroled their life sentence before I did. And 2 of them went home the first time they went up.
Wow.
The first time. So,
yeah.
And that's very rare in Tennessee. So anyway, July comes, my family, my friends come in. Mom's brother, sister, one of my aunts, my partner Charles. We've been friends since the 3rd grade. Him and his wife came. My guy Jeff, that was my dude. Him and his daddy. Actually, his daddy is a lobbyist. His daddy is a lobbyist. Man, he taught us a lot about the political fold of what happens.
Okay.
And I sat there, man, and they recounted my charges. Now, mind you, the guy that I went in front of, he was known for knocking lifers and people with like long sentences, getting them 3 to 5 years, knocking them off like that.
Yeah.
He was known for that. It was this white girl that just went up for parole. I watched her parole hearing on TV. Man, he ripped into her, bro. No holds barred. He put her off of 5. And I'm like,
wow.
Oh, I definitely don't stand a chance with this dude if he put off of 5.
Yeah.
So I went in front of a man, and he asks you who you are, this, that, and the other. Then they talk about your charges, and then they ask you all this stuff they got in their face. They know the answer to everything you finna say. That's why I tell guys all the time, I don't know why y'all go to parole hearings trying to lie, bro. They got everything right here. They know facts about my case I had forgot about. And I told him, I said, listen, Mr. Rich, honestly, I forgot about that. He said, no. He said, but you told me about the main stuff. I just know if you remembered about this. So, man, he just kept it real 100. So everybody got up and spoke. He allowed 2 more people to speak. And that's rare. He allowed my supervisor, and my mother was an extra because my brother spoke on behalf of the family. He said my mama has Alzheimer's. We didn't know how she would get up there and how she would speak and what she would say or how she would say it. So, man, he was like, man, I want your mama. Your mama came all the way. Where's your mom at? So I said, oh, she's right behind me. And so mama got up there, man. She spoke. And bro, that's the first time I cried in 20 years. Mom spoke, man. And it hit me. So he sat there. And at the end of every parole hearing, they ask you, why do you feel you deserve the privilege of parole today? Because it's a privilege, it's not a right. Parole is a privilege. Exactly. They didn't never have to let my black ass out. So man, I wasn't finna read from no paper. I wasn't finna do nothing scripted, man. I spoke from the heart. I spoke from the heart, bro. That's the only way I know how to do it. And he sat there for a second and he said, Mr. Morris, he said, hey, I really want to give you parole today. And I was like, damn. He said, but you were so young when you came in, you've done so long. He said, he just sat there for a second. He looked, he said, he said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue your case for 6 months. So I was like, oh, he said, I just need a little more evidence. He said, I want you to get a psychological evaluation done. That was popular when Bill Lee came into office.
Okay.
He said, give me the 6 months without disciplinary. He said, go get this done. He said, come back in January. He said, now I might be on your case, I might not. And he said, then, then we'll see what we can do to get you out of here. He said, now he told me that the psyche eval would be the ice on the cake for my hearing. So I didn't realize there was a difference between getting denied parole and getting your case continued. I didn't realize it was a difference. So he didn't deny. So he was explaining this to my family, like letting them know, like, look, we're not denying him. He said, we just need more evidence. He said, all we need is 6 more months to get this done. So the psych doctor was so cool, man. I mean, it wasn't really an evaluation of my mental capacity, really. It was more so, are you aware of these things that are going on? And are you honest about what you did?
Yeah.
And I've always been honest. So
Yeah.
I got his recommendation. I was good. So then I go back in January, and this time I'm in front of Roberta Custom. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe she's like the chairwoman of the board now.
Okay.
And we went through the whole thing again. You know, she allowed all the people to speak, and you know, she was reading my charge. And it was funny because I didn't want to laugh, but it was crazy because she said, Mr. Morris, I'm looking at your charges and the things you did. She said, were you on drugs or something? And I kind of snickered. And I said, no, ma'am. I said, I'm not laughing. Just you're the first person that ever asked me was I ever on drugs when I was doing what I was doing. I said, but no, I wasn't on any drug. I was just foolish. That's what it was. And so she asked me, well, why do you feel that you deserve, you know, privilege of parole? So I started talking and from the heart again. And bro, you know, she was giving her spiel, and you know, she said, well, Mr. Morris, you have my vote for parole today. Da, 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 da. So I just sat there and I said, huh? So when they read you your final decision, an officer comes and stands next to you. Now, this officer that stood next to me, he met me back in 1996 when I came to that prison. That was the first prison I stepped foot on, and that was the prison I left from. So he stood next to me. So I looked up at him, and I was like, did she just say I got parole? He just looked at me and winked. He said, and I was like, dang. He said, Mr. Morris, you have any questions or anything you want to add? I said, because everything went blank. I said, so that I'm understanding correct, you just gave me your vote. She said, I just gave you my vote. I knew if I had her vote and the last dude's vote, I knew it was over. I knew I was going home.
Yeah.
You know, so getting that vote. So after I made parole, I walked back, man. I didn't even know how to feel. I mean, it was a feeling like you wait all of these years for this to happen. And then when it finally happens, it's like, is this really gonna happen? Like, am I really gonna walk out?
Yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar with the Matrix movies.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Okay, so you know, all through the first, I haven't seen the latest one, but all through the Matrix movies, Morpheus is telling them, I know he's the one, I know he's the one, I know he's the one. He convicted everybody to believe this. I mean, he kept pushing it. When it finally happened, you remember what he said to Jada Pinkett's character? He said, "Is this real?" Like, he said, "Is this real?"
Yeah.
That's how I felt, bro. I'm like, damn, is this real? Everybody was like, Grady, you've been talking about this for years. I said, but I know, man, but like, I'm ready for the walk out. So the next 30 days, I get my final decision back, swept the board on the vote, got all 7 votes from the board. Because you have a felony conviction, you have to go in front of the full board, board.
Yeah.
If you have a misdemeanor, you go in front of a hearing officer. Came back. So then I came in there, hey, congratulations, Mr. Morris, you made parole. Paperwork done, sign all the documentation, this, that, and the other. Then a few days later, this is the day you getting out. It got more real. I was like, man, I'm finna go home, man. Matter of fact, I watched the first Super Bowl between Kansas City and Philly that night when Kansas City had came back and beat them.
Yeah.
I walked out that morning, bro.
Wow. So you haven't been home long.
Just over 2 years.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Over about 2.5 years now.
All right. Wow. I love that story, man. And I can relate on so many different levels, man. So, I definitely appreciate your honesty, your transparency, right? With telling everything you've told. So what are you doing now, and where can people find you? Right. Because there are quite a few people on here. Nonprofits are looking for speakers. People who overcome situations like yours, man, their stories need to be told. And I know that one of the things you're trying to do with your podcast, right, is highlight those stories, right? Tell me a little bit about what you are working towards, about the podcast you guys are working on, and what you have, planned for the future.
Okay, so Life After Life is actually a brand that my cousin came up with the idea. And you know me, I'm not artistic in anything. Like I can't draw. I couldn't draw a Nike sign to save my life. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
but he wanted to build a brand around me. And one of the things that I told him that I wanted to do with the docu series, because we finished recording the first season, so we're going to wait till our website is up and running. That should be done sometime this week and next week. But I wanted more of I want to transform a transformational brand on redemption. You know, we grow, we empower ourselves. We can be redeemed, man. My thing is this right here. Had people not believed in me, I don't know where I would have been at this point in time. Um, I wanted to rebuild my life with purpose. I wanted to rebuild, my life with meaning. I wanted to be a service to people. I feel like that my story and telling my story and showing people like this is where I was mentally, this is where
Yeah.
I am now. There's room for growth, there's room for maturity, there's room for people to change their mindset. All you have to do is change your mindset. And I
Mm.
remember I was reading Chuck D's book one time, and he had this quote that I didn't even understand it at first. And he was like, "Man, if you can't change the people around you, change the people around you." And
Exactly.
I was like, "Okay, Chuck, that went over my head, but I'm gonna ponder
Yeah.
on this for a minute."
Yeah.
So, and it's another thing about resilience, integrity. You know, I'm not going to be defined on the worst thing that I did in my life as a young kid. A lot of people can't even remember what they did when they were 18, 19 years of age. A lot of
Mm.
people don't remember a lot of stuff that they had to accomplish. I mean, what do you really accomplish at 18 and 19? You know what I mean? You graduate high school, you go to college, or you go into some field of work, you do whatever you're going to do. Like athletes, athletes, they grow. Artists, when you hear artist music, like if you listen to Ice Cube in the 80s and listen to Ice Cube now, he don't sound the same. Dr. Dre
Different
and all
person.
that, they don't sound the same. They're different
Yeah.
people now. They
Yeah.
get all that old stuff out of them and they're like, oh man, he done fell off. No, bro, listen to what he's saying. He makes more sense. Now, not to say that music wasn't great back then, but they're more conscious now. And I come into a more conscious mindset. And the perception that people have of formerly incarcerated individuals like ourselves, they believe in their mind you're the inmate that you were and always will be, and we're changing that through this docu-series. I'm shining a light on the fact that now people are better and bigger and grow from what they did in their lives. Like there's a lot of people who did a lot of messed up stuff that you don't know about because they never got caught. It was a lot of
Mm.
things that people had done in their lives that they regret and wish they could go back and change. They never will tell you about because they don't want to be transparent. I want to have our platform is made for, and not just people with life sentences, but people who did a significant amount of time, or people just in their everyday lives, man, who went through challenges and they were able to overcome their challenges. Drug abuse, sexual assault and abuse, alcoholism. I mean, anything that you can think of that anybody was able, what I'm saying, to climb out of like this valley of despair and then hit the peak, of their lives. I mean, life is a constant. That's why you know how they do. You'll see the heartbeat on the what's the name. Your heart is pumping, 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 going up and up and down. That's how life is, bro.
Yeah.
Everything is like up and down. Like we have our lows, but your low is never as bad as you think it is. And then your peak is never as high as you think it is. Like I never tell people all the time, bro, don't ever think you're too big to grow because
Yeah.
life will
Yeah.
put your ass back down and
It
you
will
have to,
humble you.
it will humble the hell out of you. So that's what we're doing with our brand. It's a symbol of hope, healing. Because I mean, think about it, man. I killed a white man back in the 90s.
Mm.
His family forgave me. You
Mm.
know what I'm saying? They forgave
Yeah.
me, bro. Like, how many people do you know can say that?
Yeah.
They, I took the power from my lawyer to be able to defend me. They took the power away from the DA to be able to just do what they want to do to me. Like, you got this older white lady standing in court saying, I forgive this young black dude for killing my husband. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And not only to honor, I don't care what kind of person he was in his personal life. I don't even know who he was or what he did. He was a father, he was a husband, he was a provider, and I took that away from somebody. What I
Mm.
want to do is I want to make sure that I keep myself humble and understand that I want to champion his life of what he did, and always acknowledge the fact that hey, Grady, man, do this for him too. Don't just do it for your mother, your siblings, or your community. Make sure you don't let his death go in vain. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause I took something from somebody they didn't deserve to lose, and I did
So,
it.
so I'm gonna ask you to do something. Can we honor him by saying his name? We want to remember who he was.
Mr. Hobart Fleming.
Okay,
Mr.
I
Hobart
appreciate.
Fleming.
I
Yeah.
appreciate.
Yeah,
You
so I want to just with me and the people that I interview, and hopefully I'll get more people to want to come interview. I want to show folks that that change is possible.
know.
Humility is something that we all need, and mindset, focus, and change is something is you have to do. If you do not change your mindset, you'll be stuck in like this swamp of despair in your mind constantly. I think it was Muhammad Ali that said this. He said, if you're the same person you were from 18 to 50, you just wasted 32 years of your life. You know what I'm saying? You just wasted 32 years of your life. Like you just wasted all of this time when you could have been, what I'm saying, maturing yourself. Um, so life after life is not just the life sentences. Like we focus on that in the first season, but life after life is going to be one of those brands that I want people through community and culture to see that, hey, we matter, we changed. We want the world to know that we're no better than any of those people that have the ability to change. That's why we was fighting that life sentence so hard, because I had life plus 16. Some other guys had life plus this, life sentences. They're all out now thriving, every last one of them. Now, one of those guys that I did time in my circle with, I've gone back to prison, and I'm the latest one that's come out. Everybody else is done, and it's been out 10, 12, 13 years. I wish some of them would come on and tell their stories, but unfortunately, some of them really don't want to. So, as of right now, we have a YouTube page. It's Life After Life 615, and
Okay.
people can go there, subscribe. They can subscribe and then watch some of the videos. Like I talk about when I first contemplated suicide. I talked about when I first went to the hole. Like they're like short. And then my whole interview that my cousin did, 'cause I'm the interviewer from then on out. I want everybody to see, kind of like set the tone for what was to come. And
Got
I've been chastised about the interview, man. I got some calls from a couple of people that they don't like the fact that I kept it so raw and some of the language that was used. But my thing is the language that was used were me talking about how the language is used at that time. I want it to be as real as possible.
got you.
And
Got you.
so my question to those people were like, so I can't walk a righteous path by the way I talk.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I can't be a real authentic person because I use choice languages at certain times. Like I would never
Mm.
walk into a church and speak at a church and drop F bombs left and right. I would never go to kids and talk to kids and be like F this, F that, and so no, I wouldn't do anything like that. But if we're on a platform where I can be myself and be authentic, then I'm gonna be myself and be authentic because that's the
As,
way it happened. That's the way that
as,
it happened.
as you should. Now,
Yeah.
and I want to just mention like so in theory, I came up with something. I it's called the Butterfly Academy. So based on what you were saying, right? I have a whole curriculum that I created, a course, everything, right? Based off of this butterfly theory. I don't know if you see my TED talk. When I did my TED talk, I talked about um I compared us to caterpillars. When we're young, we are destructive. That's when we're most destructive. And if you know anything about caterpillars, that's also when they're the most destructive, when they're in the caterpillar stage. They're
Right.
eating up all of the leaves on the trees and everything. They eat anything in front of them, right? But then they go into that chrysalis, they go into that cocoon.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when they have a metamorphosis, right? And
Mm-hmm.
when they come out after that metamorphosis inside of that cocoon, they are a beautiful butterfly. And this is how I theorize us as young men, right?
I
And
love
that's
it.
why I came
I
up with
love
this the Butterfly Academy.
it. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, like it's obvious, right, that there is change that occurs inside those prison walls. But right now, the state of Tennessee is dealing with felony murder is carrying, you don't get parole for 51 years. It's a 51 year mandatory sentence, basically, right, for felony murder. And this is something that we're fighting against right now in Tennessee. We're trying to get legislation pushed in order to, give individuals an opportunity like you had, like your friends had, right, to come home earlier. Because at this point, no one has ever lived 51 years in the state of Tennessee.
Never.
So it's a death sentence, right? Yeah. If you say it's 51 years before a person can go up for parole, you'll never see another Grady Morris, right? You'll never see another person like myself, Carlos Parks. You'll never see a person like your friends who have been successful post-conviction, right? There are changes that happen, right? But we can't acknowledge or allow or witness these changes if we have people who can't see a parole board for 51 years, right? Yeah. So that's something that we're fighting against in Tennessee, and we need all the support we can get. If anybody's interested in helping, joining in, the person that we're addressing right now is Governor Bill Lee. We're targeting the House and the Senate legislative branches, right? So if you want to partake in the fight, please reach out to me. But today, I appreciate Mr. Grady Morris for coming on, man. I appreciate you, man. Where can they find you? You have a Facebook page, an Instagram page?
Yeah, my Instagram is Grady.Morris7. That's my Instagram. Then you can also go to our Life After Life Instagram too. Life After Life 615. That's for our Life After Life business. Yeah. The website, like I said, that'll be a little later, maybe this week or next week. That'll be done. Okay. And I'm gonna be open for speak on platforms to mentor guys. Get people to want to come and do interviews, and for our next season of docuseries, which is going to drop when the website drops. And then my Facebook is just Grady Morris. Just go to Grady Morris. You'll see me with the hat, with the Life After Life hat on, like this right here.
And they can reach out to you directly for booking?
Yeah, they can reach out to me directly for booking.
Okay. All right. Well, again, I thank you for your time, man. This has been another episode of The Versatile Experience. I'm your boy, Carlos Parks. Until next time, peace. All right.